So this morning there are some more potential problems for Hillary Clinton. A new report today claims that the Clinton Foundation gives about 10% of its money that it raises to actual charities and the services that they offer. Yet the foundation has reportedly raised $2 billion since it was founded in 2001. So let's talk about what's going on here. Doug Schoen is former advisor to President Clinton. Monica Crowley is the online opinion editor for the Washington Times, and both are Fox News contributors and good friends of our show. Good morning, you guys. Good to have you both here.
Good morning.
So, you know, when you look at this situation, generally charities that are ranked well give about 75% of their money, so they try to keep their overhead expenses to that very small 25% zone, and many of them do it very successfully. So they say, Doug, that they give 88%, but there was a report done by the Federalist, which is a conservative publication. They went through the tax records for the organization, and they say they're only giving between 10 and 12% to these parts of their funding. Why?
Well, as somebody who actually has worked with the Clinton Foundation on programs, I can give you an answer.
Okay.
Part of the answer deals with what the foundation is designed to do. It's not just a grant-making organization. It uses the convening power of the president and the former Secretary of State to try to be a catalyst for action. It brings staffers both on the ground and from New York into trouble zones. I worked with them in Ukraine on an anti-AIDS program. So candidly, the real issue is how you define assistance, and I would define it more expansively, involving staff and travel in ways that the Federalist doesn't.
I get that. You know, I went on the website today to look at it. It says their mission says we convene businesses, governments, NGOs, and individuals to improve global health and wellness, increase opportunity for women and girls, reduce childhood obesity, create economic opportunity and growth, and help communities address the effects of climate change. So they're saying we're so good at this that we can help you streamline your systems. We can help you do it better by getting together all of the really important people that we know and making that happen. Doug says they do it successfully.
I've seen it firsthand, Martha.
Okay.
Well, here's
Monica?
the problem. It's not just the Federalist that's looked into this. There's the nation's top charity integrity group, charity watchdog group called Charity Navigator. Last month, they put the Clinton Foundation on its list of problematic charities because of these omissions, improprieties. And let's not forget that now the Clinton Foundation has to go back and refile at least 5 years of tax returns because of these omissions and improprieties, what they call so-called mistakes. So they have a lot of explaining here to do. It does seem like an exorbitant amount of money that's coming in is being used to enrich and empower the Clintons and the charitable stuff. And I'm sure they do a lot of good work, though, Martha.
Absolutely.
A lot of the charitable stuff seems to be an aside to empowering and enriching.
But you know, anyone who gives to any foundation or any charity wants to know how good they are at this. This is the bottom line for anyone who gives. They say, well, how much of my money is actually going to get to the bottom line here? But when you're spending $8.5 million a year in travel expenses, Doug, that, you know, if I were donating, that would raise my eyebrows. And millions, $4 million on offices and office supply.
Well,
that's a lot of money.
Again, I've seen Bill and Hillary Clinton travel on foundation business. I've seen staff travel. And Bill and Hillary, obviously, are going to travel privately. They're going to have substantial security both when they travel and when they're on the ground. So, again, it's going to be a high number. There are a lot of people with expertise on health care and related issues, as you described, traveling around the world. So it's a high number, but there's a logic.
So you're saying there's no boondoggle effect. When you're on this plane and all the executives are on the plane, does everybody who's on the plane really need to be on the plane for that trip, Doug?
Well, I can tell you, you really need the plane itself. The marginal cost of adding a few people to a plane that's carrying the president or secretary of state is what it is. It's pretty high.
You know what? This is just for people to look at and say, do you want to give or do you not want to give based on these numbers?
Well, that's right. And these are legitimate questions. There is a director of something called the Sunlight Foundation, which is another charitable watchdog group that actually called the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton Global Initiative a slush fund for the Clintons. Now, whether or not that's a legitimate argument or criticism to make, The Clintons need to be answering all of these questions. And again, it's the pile-on effect. It's the drip, drip, drip of every day you get a new piece of information about the Clinton Foundation, about how they have been spending their money, about the lack of disclosure on donors, the lack of disclosure on expenditures. And people are now saying, was this in fact a foundation that was set up as a slush fund just to empower and enrich the two of them as they go into their next political life?
They're legitimate questions, and there are a lot of questions about the foundation that need to be dug into. There's one other thing that came out about this 1,100 entities that were part of this Canadian cooperation, that none of their donations were disclosed, and that's raising a lot of questions too. And Peter Schweitzer also talks about an Indian member of Parliament who said that he gave $5 million to the foundation, but he said, well, it wasn't my money. Someone gave it to me to give to them, and that's how it happened. What's going on here, Doug? Well,
two things. First, in the Canadian situation, as I understand it, their disclosure rules in Canada are very different than the ones we have in America. That being said,
you are allowed to disclose, though, and it was incumbent upon her to disclose under her agreement. So because they are allowed to disclose, and it was incumbent upon her to disclose, she needed to disclose those.
Well, I think that's one argument. The other argument was that confidentiality in Canada was promised and it was preserved. That being said, right now there should be disclosure. And in India, if somebody, quote, gave $5 million to a member of Parliament, the question should be directed to the member of Parliament.
The problem here politically for the Clintons is a pattern of behavior. I would actually use the word circumstantial evidence. People actually get convicted of murder based on circumstantial evidence. So I think that's what we should move forward with.
I just need a quick thought from both of you, because we don't want to forget Bernie Sanders, who's thrown his hat into the ring on the Democratic side. Hillary Clinton has a challenger now. Quick thought, what do you think about it, Monica?
Well, I don't think he's going anywhere in terms of the nomination, but I think it's interesting because it's an indicator of the dissent on the far left against Hillary Clinton. If they can't get Elizabeth Warren or Bill de Blasio to run for president, which is still an open question, they will more than likely go for Bernie Sanders. And he's been all over the banks and all over the 1%, class warfare, radical wealth redistribution. At least he has the guts to call himself a socialist.
Doug?
So we'll go
is
from
he
there.
a stalking horse for Elizabeth Warren? That, to me, is the big question. She's the only one who can beat Hillary.
All right. We shall see. It gets more interesting every day. Monica and Doug, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Both of you for being here.